Welcome, everyone, to episode 5 of the Molding You podcast. I'm Jonathan Dickler, mold lawyer, mold assessor, and podcaster, and I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Myra Reed, internal medicine doctor and incorporating functional medicine. So thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you. This is wonderful. I'm excited.
Me too, very. And so as you know, Molding You, it's about manifestation, motivation, mentorship. And the Molding You aspect, of course, is, for me, mold is kind of how things got, that's kind of how my passion arose, through helping people heal. That's why I enjoy the mold industry. And now I'm a mold lawyer. But
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, Dr. Myra Reed, can you kind of tell us your story and how you got to this position that you're in?
So we were talking earlier, I grew up in Southwest Louisiana. Both of my parents were physicians, and so I grew up thinking that's the way you do things. I really wanted to be a veterinarian because I had all these animals. But I went to college at LSU in Baton Rouge, got into medical school in New Orleans, started on my track, ended up going into internal medicine in Galveston, Texas. So I really wasn't planning on doing internal medicine. I really thought about doing ENT, ear, nose, and throat. But as life has it, the things you kind of plan, your path gets diverted for different reasons. Like, met someone, so it changed my trajectory of my career, got married, lived in Galveston, and we moved to Florida after we finished our residency. So I've always been along the Gulf Coast, and hurricanes always seemed to follow wherever I was living. But we were living in Tampa, then moved to Panama City Beach in 1991. So I've been here a long time, been an established physician, first doing emergency medicine and then opening up my own practice. But I was working for other people, and then I could see how other people were doing it. And I was like, it's kind of nice to have control of your own business and your own life. So I decided to jump ship and open up my own practice with the help of another doctor that did it. So we worked, it was rented from her office for about 3 years, and then outgrew that little space, bought my own building one day, just out of the blue, driving down the road. And I looked over and I'm like, I think I need to have that building to move my practice. It was closer to where I lived in Panama City Beach. And back then, doctors did not cross the bridge from Panama City to Panama City Beach. And so for me to buy this building, which was very expensive, it was large, I just knew it was right. I have this intuition, and I did it. So after that, I said, okay, well, this building's big. I had to fill it with, a lot of employees and another doctor and nurse practitioner. Then after a little while, I kind of saw how medicine was changing. And I knew that I didn't want to be controlled by insurance or these corporations. And I loved being independent, running my own schedule, doing my own thing. And as a doctor, you don't learn how to do business, but I always called it the school of hard knocks, learning how to do things such as that. And in 2015, converted my practice to a membership model, which was unheard of in this area. And it still really is. I think I'm really the only one doing what I'm doing in Panama City Beach, which is a membership practice, which some people will call like a concierge model, but it's a personalized medicine practice.
Yeah, it's interesting. No one talks about the business aspect of being a doctor or a lawyer. And I remember my doctor was like, I'm going to be concierge now. They sent out a letter, and I was like, I'm not going to go back there. And then they sent another letter like, actually, we changed our mind. We're not concierge anymore. And then they went out of business.
Oh.
So I think it's commendable that you not only did that, but maintained it.
Yes, it wasn't easy, I'm going to say, because as a doctor, when I converted my practice to this membership, not only was it unheard of, but, it's a mindset shift. And people say, well, I'm already paying for all this money for insurance. Why would I pay on top of that to have access to my doctor? But a lot of people did because they got it. They were like, I really do like to have a doctor that I have access to, someone I know that I trust, have a relationship with. And what I do is I partner with my patients. So people are like, I love that peace of mind. I love that continuity of care. So that people are willing to pay a little bit out of pocket for their health, and it's really beneficial. Not only do the patients love it because it's like we have a relationship, they feel warm and friendly, coming to my office. I have a very small staff now. I have 3 employees where I used to have 12. But not only that, when patients come in, it's like, oh, hey, it's like having a family member, or a good friend coming in, and they feel that. And that's what we want, because people will heal better when they feel calmer and they trust and they feel that sense of safety of people, of their doctor and their team knowing them.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for there's really nothing free in life, but like there's something that when you pay for something, you're more invested into
Yes.
it. And the same with the attorney side is like there's a lot of people that do free consults and whatnot, but at the end of the day, like if you want a dedicated client, that they usually have to invest into it themselves. So it's a good way to weed out the people who are like not going to listen to you, because if they're not paying, then they're just like, why even listen? But I like how you talk about a partnership with the clients, especially in the mold space, because it's kind of like you're mentoring them. Like healing is not just give people medicine
No.
or give people a protocol, but it's actually like mentor them and encourage them, motivate them to heal, but through other things like you said, staying calm and like listening to them. And can you talk a little about how you help people heal without just a prescription pad?
Yes. I spend an hour when a patient comes to an appointment. I don't do that 10-minute in and out. Just here's, oh, what's wrong? Okay, here, take this pill, and send them on their way, and they still feel terrible. And I don't do that. I sit down and I really listen to them. I ask really good questions and things that they like, wow, I've never had a doctor ask me things, like this. And then they just release, and I get so much more information. I always say that Sir William Osler was the father of medicine from so many years ago, way in the past. But in medical school, I remember this specifically, is that he would say, if you sit and listen to the patient, they will tell you what's wrong with them. In this day and age, medicine's not like that anymore. So I will sit and talk to my patient and listen and ask really good questions, and really they feel heard for a lot of times the first time in a doctor's office, that a doctor is really listening. And I have found by doing this, I get them off of so many medications. I mean, that's what they want. People don't want to really be on all these medicines. And I try to convince people, look, that we can get you off of medications. I can get you feeling better, living longer, just overall, not just your lifespan, but your health span is better. So that's what I'm doing. And honestly, I can't even remember. I've been in practice for like 35 years. And now I'm telling you, my patients are not in the hospital. I mean, they might go in for a little surgery here, something like that, but they're not going to the hospital hardly ever. I mean, the thing is, when you're available and you really help patients and they are invested in their health, they are going to be healthier. And instead of giving sick care, I can give health care. And that's really motivation. So patients just feel better. And you're right, when people invest in their health, and it's not that much. I mean, people go out and spend so much more money going out to fine dining and buying their wine than they would even a year-long membership with me. I mean, it's crazy. Why would you, for one night, spend that much money, but not invest that money for, having a doctor that's going to make you healthier? And my goal now is longevity in patients, in people, and the people that I see. But yeah, I mean, it's a mindset shift, and that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Is that people are like, oh, you have to pay extra money to the doctor? I'm already paying for this insurance. But your insurance is not making you healthier. Your insurance is just like car insurance. You know, when you buy car insurance, it's not paying for tires, it's not paying for oil changes, it's not paying for those maintenance. It's there for if you have an accident. That's what health insurance is doing. And, health insurance does pay, some plans will pay for medications if they want that, or, your supplements. But my goal is I'm not going to people aren't going to be on medications because I am a doctor and there are needs for medications. But my objective is to get them to the lowest amount and the least amount and replace it with other things, lifestyle. Like you were talking earlier before we started talking today, you talk about being out in nature. That's one of my healing techniques for people. We did a deep breathe technique right before we started just to kind of get into that parasympathetic relaxed mode. I teach people breathing exercises in my office all the time when they're having anxiety. I'm like, okay, let's do a breathing technique that you can take anywhere, wherever you are.
Yeah, that 10-second inhale, 12-second exhale. I like that one. I've seen a lot of breathing techniques, which they're all good because you're kind of thinking about your breathing and you're not thinking about all the stress, but people still don't understand like how you can control your physical body with mental practices.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the reason people go to the hospital is because they're freaked out.
Yes.
They're anxious, they're panicked, they're like, this must be the end of times. Like this, if they have someone that they can talk to who actually guides them and it's like, you don't have to go to the hospital, you just have to calm down. Like I have, people in my family, like they're constantly checking their blood pressure rate and their pulse rate. And they're like, I have to go to the hospital. Like if anything happens, and it's like you said, do your regular maintenance, do your oil change, do your tires, like stay on top of things. And yeah, for me, like going into nature, like that's where I find my happy place. Like I wanted to be a veterinarian just like you. And I think all my guests wanted to be veterinarians.
Oh, really?
which is funny,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you love animals and then you start to love people. And then you realize that people are just animals at the end of the day. And it teaches you a lot about yourself. But I think, like you said, business is very much about listening to people. And like, it's not about your sales pitch. It's about how well can you listen to the client and then give them what they need. So I think that's...
Yeah, because I mean, what people want when they don't feel good or they're scared or having anxiety or anything, people just want to feel safe and they want peace of mind and they want a transformation. And if you just spend time with people, just like with anybody, it's all about really feeling in them their pain and knowing what their issues are and meeting them where they are and then helping them, guiding them to learn that they can self-heal. And that's what, our bodies are made to heal. Like when you cut yourself, you're gonna heal. When you break a bone, it'll heal. I mean, our body is geared to heal. So what we have to do is just give it these natural techniques or, support it in ways that it's not always a pill for an ill. That's not, that's what medicine has turned into today, is that pill for an ill, the quick in and out visit. And people are just getting more and more and more pills and then they don't feel good. And they're still where they are and they're just like still miserable, but that's all they know. They don't know how to fix it. So if we can spend, as a doctor, if as a provider, we can spend more time with people and guide them and have them feel safe, they can heal faster when they feel safer, when they feel heard and they feel calmer. So there's so many things that we can do. Like in my practice, I guess we haven't really mentioned that yet, but when I converted to that concierge model, the membership model, right then I really feel like God puts things in life for us to, at the right time, and for us to guide us. I didn't know what functional medicine was. I had no clue, never even heard of functional medicine. And I went to a meeting with this, concierge group, and they had some brilliant doctors talking. It was Dr. Mark Hyman and Jeffrey Bland and just on and on. A lot of these doctors that are now known as functional medicine doctors. And I was just like, they were on stage talking, and I was just remember just stopping and staring, and it just clicked in me. I'm like, wow, they've got it. They know. This is going back to the way medicine practice, the way my parents did it, instead of how medicine is turning now to this quick, hamster wheel. You have to see multiple patients, and you don't have any time to even say hi to them, much less even address their problems. And I found out about functional medicine at that point, and I was right then, I was like, I knew inside, because I get these things, like I get this, these intuitions, and I'm like, I'm going to learn everything I can about this. And I went on that fast track of learning about it and became certified in functional medicine within 2 years. And I started implementing it into my practice with my patients. And a lot of it's mind-body healing and using natural approaches. And it has been a game changer in my practice. So when I have patients that come and they're scared, they don't know, and I always do a meet and greet with my patients now to see if we're a good fit, like, or is this going to work for us? And it's about 45 minutes long that we sit and I chat with them even before they become a patient. Because I want them to feel comfortable with me, and we need to understand each other, and that way I can guide them through better approaches, like checking, doing advanced lab testing to see inflammation markers. Because inflammation, it means there's something wrong in the body. That's going to cause pain. It's going to cause your, anxiety, insomnia. You're just not going to feel good. I do this Cleveland Heart Lab advanced lipid panel with all kind of fancy, great markers that really guide direction. And people see if it's in the red, they're like, oh shoot, it really helps them like change their lifestyle. And then they come in, and each time it's like, oh, I want to see if I've done better. So it's a really good way to mark that. But I do gut testing, because we know that the gut is the window to the rest of the body. And there's so much now about the microbiome, about the gut-brain axis, the gut-skin axis, the gut-eye axis. But the gut also is where our neurotransmitters, the hormones of our mood that control our mood, how we feel, anxious, depressed, all that. So I help people with all that, not only doing the testing to balance things better, but get rid of the things, the bad things we shouldn't have, or supporting the things that we do need. It's not about just going to get a cup of yogurt and eating taking your probiotic. There's so much more science to that now, and we can now actually tweak that. I do that. I do advanced genetic testing. It's so cool now, all the research with that. But I am going to say, my 4 pillars, because hormones are such an integral, you're young, but hormones, in young men, I'm seeing a lot of men with low testosterone, but especially the women who are going through perimenopause and menopause. We can fix that now with natural bioidentical hormones. So my 4 pillars I'm just going to mention are, it's going to be gut health, because gut's the window of the body. Hormone balancing, which is not just estrogen, testosterone, it's thyroid and cortisols. It's going to be toxins and detox, which we're going to, which gets me into the mold realm. We'll talk about that, a little bit. And then the 4th one, which is probably the most important, is lifestyle. So when I talk about lifestyle, I mean, how are you sleeping? How are you managing your stress? What are you eating? What are you putting in your body? And I help. So you can't do that in a 10-minute visit. That's why in a personalized medicine, what I do now, personalized medicine, which is internal medicine and functional medicine, more holistic approach, you can combine all this together, the Eastern and the Western medicine. I tell you, it's been such an amazing transformation in my life, not only in how I feel in longevity and anti-aging, excuse me, but what I would say is the transformations that I'm making in my patients' lives. And all it boils down to is spending more time with them and listening. But to get that, people have to know that, have that mindset shift. Insurance isn't going to do that. It's an investment into your health, just like you invest in your finances. And we always say this, what good is your wealth if you don't have your health?
Exactly.
But it is, and it's a lot. And I've spent the last 10 years or so really learning all of this. And I know it sounds like a lot, but I can take it and I can put it together and I can make it into stages and help people with baby steps of moving those needles and getting them better. And they're ecstatic. They're so happy.
Yeah, it's crazy when you start to get your health back, how you actually feel joy again.
Yes.
And like you don't even realize that if you're not feeling well, how it just ruins your day and ruins your life. But in so many ways, it's about quality, not quantity. Even if we're talking about like, what's the point of living 100 years if your life just sucks?
Right.
Versus living 60 years, but you had the best life ever. Maybe there's some merit to that. But I think when we talk kind of business wise, like quality is so important. Like it's better to have one client who fits all your needs versus 100 clients who are, doing their
Right.
own thing. But that's part of like, in a lot of ways, I think charging a higher cost is helpful because not only does it gives you the freedom to have less clients and you can spend that time with the clients. So it's a more personalized approach. And obviously it sounds great. We'll just charge more, but then less people can afford it.
Well, I have to disagree on that. And that's the mindset shift that we need, because I have patients that are just living off of their Social Security that still come to me because they value their health. And it's funny, I think people who have the most money are the ones who are probably at least, very
Yeah.
resistant to doing it. But I'm not saying it's not that much. If you think about where do you want to put your value? And so a lot of people think it is, oh, you have to spend, I can't afford that. But when you see the people that have been with me the longest, I mean, they're retired. They don't have income. They're living, off of but they value wanting to have a doctor that knows them and that they feel comfortable with, and that peace of mind and that access. I mean, we have an app that people can text me or call me anytime. They have after hours access, and they love that. I mean, just on the way over here, I had a patient saying, getting a sinus infection, or hey, was my medicine called in, or hey, and all I have to do is just when I get here, I can respond to them through this app and just say, oh, it's taken care of. Oh yes, I'll send that prescription in, and they're like, oh, they don't have to run to the urgent care or do all this stuff. And if people are traveling and they have an issue, they can contact me. They love that. But even more so, they're saving money in the long run because I'm getting them off medications. They're seeing less specialists.
Exactly.
And their quality of life is better.
Yeah, you can't afford not to
Right.
in a lot of ways. And that's something Christina Bayer, the attorney that I just did a pod with, when she talks about people leaving their moldy house, they're like, well, I can't afford to. She's like, well, you really can't afford not to. Mm-hmm. And when most people say I can't afford something, it's usually just like, I don't want to make that financial commitment. But one thing for me, I was always like, if I keep raising my prices, which I've had to as an attorney, as a mold assessor, I'm not going to be able to help those people that literally can't afford it, which I feel like you can't help everyone. But what I started doing is I'm like, I'm going to make social media content. That's how I'm going to help the other 7 billion people or whatever it is. Like, there's a way to help everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way to be someone who can change the world, even if not everyone can do the concierge, or some people are, having trouble affording insurance, or thankfully there's some help from the government, which we don't know how long that'll even last. But I really like that point of like, you can't afford you can't afford to just use WebMD and
Or
treat
Google, yeah,
and
Dr.
if you
Google.
yeah, and if you use Dr. Chat GPT and it tells
It's,
you you have a brain tumor, and then you're like, you start stressing, and then now you're actually forming probably a tumor because
yes,
you're so stressed.
yeah.
But
And that's what I see. A lot of people will go online and will check things out, and they're having so much anxiety. And what I do when they come to me, I'll look at their list, and they'll be on 2 pages of supplements. Like they listen to every Instagram, every TikTok, and they're on all this stuff, and they're thinking, oh, I got to be doing this, I got to be doing that. I'm like, let's take a deep breath and let's just look at this. And I go through and say, okay, you don't need this, you don't need this. And what they want guidance. And I do love AI and all that stuff. I'm not saying, I think it's fabulous with all that, but AI is not going to replace the humanistic part. We know that. I mean, that we're humans and, the emotional aspect, the AI is not going to give you that emotion or, help you with that aspect.
yeah, and of course I recommend people go to medical doctors, but we've even seen functionals who are not even MDs that are
Yeah.
that are helping.
Yeah.
Because I think, like you said, it's just having a human who can just give you another perspective on your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it's like a therapist or just like a friend, like if you have another human being that can be like, well, you're eating McDonald's every day. Like, I think I know why you don't feel so hot. You're eating a McGriddle for breakfast and you can't figure out why you have chronic fatigue. Like, just having a human being,
Mm-hmm.
of course, someone with a medical degree, I think should be telling you health advice. But I think it's so important just having human to human connection. Like, we're social creatures and you can't really do it alone. Like, you're not going to look at yourself in the mirror and go, oh, I need to fix my whole lifestyle. Like, most people aren't motivated to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes in. Like, you're a doctor, but you're also like a mentor. You're guiding
Yes.
people. And I've even seen that as a mold assessor, because when I started, it was the mold testing, then it was the real mold assessment. And I'm like, I'm helping people heal where their doctors couldn't. And that's why I love what I do, because I literally was saying for a while, like, I'm going to help you heal more than probably your doctors, which could probably get me in some
And all
trouble.
people want is like someone to be there to help them, give them that support, that peace of mind, that guidance. You're right. I do spend a lot of time, guiding people on different things, but I actually just hired a health coach virtually in my practice. And so I have a health coach that's working with patients now and that are joining my practice to help them guide them along as well. So they get that extra guidance. I do spend a lot of time going over diet and what they should eat, what they shouldn't eat, and explaining. It's all about education and knowledge. But yeah, I mean, people need coaches. People need a mentor. People need someone to help them, to guide them.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people have that pride and ego where they're like, I don't want a coach or a mentor. And I think the people who need it most are those people.
Yes.
Like, if you could be making billions of dollars right now, and I feel like you should have a coach, or at least have another human being like, hey, you're making billions of dollars, but you're killing your health, or you're ignoring your family, or you're stressing out. Like, people don't realize this stuff, and there's more to life than money. But it's so important. Like, I know a mentor who helps people with a lot of things, but addiction is one of the main ones. And his biggest clients are these like Wall Street millionaires who they have all the money in the world. They got their dream job with the good view, and they just kind of hate their lives, and they're probably not healthy at all. I think it's so important that you could still have pride and ego and have a coach or a mentor. If anything, it'll probably take you to a level where you can have an even bigger ego. But I think you should get away from the ego. But you don't want to be so proud that you just completely ignore all these aspects of your life, like growth. just because you're making billions of dollars doesn't mean that there's not growing to do. And if you're not growing, then you're kind of
Yeah.
slowing down. Um, but it's so important. And I wonder, like, I mean, I'm sure that there are days where you wake up and you're like, I'm not going to be super, super doctor today. Like days where you're not motivated. Do you have those days?
Um, I I don't know. I pretty much can get up in the morning. I don't know. I'm a morning person and I love it. Get up in the morning and my brain's already going. But
No coffee.
no, I like my coffee.
Okay.
I do. So I get up in the morning. The coffee's already set. We grind the beans the night before. The timer's set. So, at 5:15 it's going off, and so by the time I get up, get ready for the gym, I'm coming downstairs. I got my coffee, got my water, and I can head out my little routine of going to the gym in the morning. And I that to me is the best thing is getting up in the morning early. I love mornings. And I love sunshines. I love to hear the birds and just, nature. But then I get up and, head into the gym, have a good workout and come back. Now, I mean, there might be I'm not saying everything's perfect, of course, but I've been through some tough times in my life and some really significant personal things happening. And it's amazing, though, when I would walk in the office, I could take a deep breath and walk in and give full attention to the patients. Now, sometimes, I mean, it's not 100% all the time, but I guarantee you when I know that what I need to do, I put my focus on that and give it. Of course, nothing's perfect, but I mean, there are some days I don't feel good or whatever, but you just adapt and go. I guess I'm just used to, I have a lot of tenacity, I guess, and kind of drive. So
Definitely. I can tell you love what you do. And I feel
yeah,
like for me, it's the same way. Like I'm in the healing space somewhat. I mean, everything I try to do is about healing and growth, whether it even being an attorney or, if you really love what you do, I feel like you don't have these unmotivated days. Or you could have a bad day, but once you go in that office, like it's a good day all of a sudden because you get to help people heal. And I'm the same way. Like I feel like if there's people listening who they're not motivated at all, or they at least have those days where they're like, I'm just gonna today's an off day. But I don't think you really love what you're doing if you have these unmotivated days. Like I tell people like pursue your passion, do what you really love,
yes.
and then you're never gonna it's like they say, it's not gonna be work. And if you can like monetize doing what you love, like you'll be the
You
happiest.
don't call it work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
You're,
like you
yeah.
said,
You
like
say you're
it's
going to work, but it's really you're going to do your passion.
yeah. And it's like you said, you don't want to say your life is perfect because it's not, but it's okay to be pretty darn close to perfect. Like you can create a perfect life. I mean, you see there's
Yeah.
people out there doing it where why would you have a bad day because you've manifested everything you want? And it's not always the path that you expected to go down. But I think
Right.
that's part of manifestation is like you play with the cards that you're dealt.
Yes.
And I like at the beginning you used the phrase you jumped ship. Because I mean that's like the scariest thing you could do if you're a pirate is literally jump ship into freezing cold rough waters with sharks everywhere. And that's what it feels like.
Yes.
And everyone around you is like, don't jump, don't do it. And then when you're in the water, they're like not throwing you the life vest.
There's a lot of negative things. Like there's a new venture that I want to do, and everybody's just like telling me, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? I can retire right now. And I'm about to maybe do another venture that's going to be financially, taxing and a lot of stress. But I just feel it inside of me, and that's how I am. And I've done this multiple times, like leaving the emergency room. I loved it, opening going to work for somebody and then opening my own practice, which everybody's like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I don't know. And I just knew it. I get this feeling, okay, this is what I need to do. And then buying that expensive building and then changing to a membership model, a concierge model, which everybody was like, that, you're not going to make it. You're not. I said, I am going to make it. And I know when I want to do something, I'm going to make it happen. And that's just how I am. And I'm not saying I'm not going to ever fail, but I'm just saying I get this intuition, and I feel like God has given me things in life. I mean, like you said, people used to always say, "What's your 3-year and your 5-year vision?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Every time, if I ever had a vision, my life never went in the direction that I thought it was going to go in, and what I'm doing today is not what I thought I was going to be doing way back when, or even. I do make vision boards, and I truly believe in manifestations. And when you know something inside of you and you manifest it, and I truly believe manifestation works, then it will come to fruition. And it's funny because people say, make a vision board. And so I save all these magazines in a bucket, and I'll cut things out, and then I'll stack up, put them in a shoebox like that. And I'll come back and I'll make a vision board every year around New Year's. And I put things in there. And then I go back and look, and I went, wow, those things happened. So there is a lot about manifestations. And I'm trying to encourage that with younger people like my children, for sure, is that you just have to follow your passion. And if it's what you want, it will happen. And it's not about doing something to make money at all, because that would be miserable. It's about doing what's right and enjoying it and having the freedom. I like freedom and independence. That's why I do better as an entrepreneur, working for myself, and I just like that. I do better that way. But not everybody, everybody's just got to find their thing. I'm not saying everybody has to do it. That's just how my makeup is. And, and I've been through some very rough times financially and personally, but, I don't even know how, but just because I wanted to, I guess I was driven. I'm like, I'm going to make this work. And I feel, like I'm in a good spot right now, ready to
Yeah.
take another risk.
Yeah, it seems great, and you absolutely should. And I think if people are not failing, then they're definitely
growing.
not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Or like if you're comfortable right now, like you make a good salary, you got the nice apartment and you got the dog, but if you're just not failing, like you're really not trying hard enough. And speaking of manifestation and dream vision boards, it's like this is what I'm going to do. Not what I'm trying to do, not what I want to do. Need is a good word, I think, but it's not even like you need to do it. It's this is what I'm going to do. And if you keep saying that, like if you tell your clients, here's how I'm going to help. Here's what I'm going to do in your house. Here's what I'm going to do for your family. Like there is so much power in just saying it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. And I think failure should be like the goal. Like don't run around trying to lose, but like do as many things as possible that where you think, how could I possibly win? And I think if you really try your best, you will win.
Well, and life is an adventure. So I think that, we're on this earth for life lessons. And this is like part of it. It's just like what we're doing is just going through life to learn things. Our soul has to learn lessons. And it's all about making the world a better place, helping other people, and just, you're here for a reason, finding your purpose in life, no matter what it is. And I tell my children this all the time. Like, you just need to find what your purpose on life is, what your God-given purpose is and your passion is. Because it's not about just going to make money. You're going to be miserable, and that's just not going to work. So, when you talk about mentoring, I tried. This is what I tell people, and I don't want to push my children into doing anything. My youngest son, left. He graduated from FSU in business and finance, and he hated it. Went off, and then he came back and he says, "Mom, I really feel like God wants me to go to medical school." I went, "Dude, your grades are not good in business. You haven't even had any science classes." I said, "You would have to make straight A's, and not only make straight A's, going back to school, taking all these very tough science classes, but you'd have to be at the top of your class to even try to apply to medical school." And so he's like, "I'm going to do it." I went, "Okay." I said, and so he went back to Tallahassee, stayed in some friends, and let him stay in their townhouse they weren't using, because I was like, "I'm not paying for rent anymore. I'm not blowing, because you're going to go there, and in 2 months it's not going to be for you, and you're going to be out, and I'm not." So they let him stay. He stayed 2 years, a year and a half or whatever, just nonstop. Not only did he make straight A's, but he was the top on the test without even having a sign. He just knew it. So he found his passion, his drive. But the funny thing is he went so hard, and I don't advise this because I got burnt out going through medical school, just going straight from college medical school. He got burnt out, and right before he was taking the MCAT, which he studied very hard for, he just hit a wall. He just said, "I don't want to take the test." And I'm like, "Okay, if that's not what you want to do, don't do it." And he said, "I'm going to Costa Rica. I'm going to go down to this thing." And it's been 2 years, and he's still living in Costa Rica, never took the MCAT, never went to, and he is so happy. He is so happy. He's, living regenerative farm, living off the land, they're doing this off-grid type thing. And in fact, we're going for Christmas because he's getting married.
I'm coming.
Yes, it is. And I tell you, we went down there, and I was just sitting there, and I'm like, I could stay here. I came that close to just saying, they got the right idea. It's just pretty cool, and it's so peaceful, and you're in nature, you're working, you're digging, you're planting, you're doing, it's really cool. And, he could have easily gone to medical school. I didn't tell him he had to. I didn't force him to, or I didn't tell him he was crazy. I said, "You find your passion," and he is the happiest.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of places in the world, handful. Costa Rica is by far the best.
Yeah, well, we're going to be
If
there
you're
for
thinking
Christmas.
about quitting your career and going to it.
Yeah.
But, it's funny. I took the bar 3 times, and I would have taken it 4 or 5. Like, I didn't care. I wanted to pass. And then as soon as I passed, I'm like, I want to be a podcaster. I just think it's funny how, your life takes you in strange directions, but it's a good thing to know. Like, medical school knowledge is good to have, and law school knowledge. Like, I wasn't set on being a lawyer per se, which I now am, and I love it. But you'll find your path, and I think it's important for parents. I'm not a parent, but for parents to know that, like, it's amazing what happens if you let your children do their thing, versus trying to corral them into the same area that you went to. But for a long time, like, for me, I feel like my passion was kind of, and it still is, like, making my parents as happy as possible. Because I was an only child, and they gave me such a spoiled, great, amazing, pampered childhood. And I thought, well, I have to do the doctor, lawyer, accountant like they told me to, which I sort of did do. But I feel like children, you'll be astonished what happens when you just be yourself, follow your path. Like, that's going to make your parents so happy in a way that they didn't even know. Like, you could be selling buttons, and you could be the happiest person on the planet, and your parents will be so happy for you.
Yes.
But I feel a lot of times parents kind of like, they want you to follow the path that they wanted to follow. So they kind of, they're trying to fill their own void, I think. But I think if you start to fill up your own pitcher, you can start to fill up other people's glasses, which is a restaurant server reference I heard. But it's like, fill up your own cup so you can overflow onto other people.
Well, I tell you, I did become a medical doctor, but it wasn't easy. And I had to really push myself. And, looking back, I really feel like I'm going to mention this, and I haven't really ever told anybody this probably, but I grew up in Southwest Louisiana. It rains a lot. And my parents' friend was an architect, and he built us a flat roof Frank Lloyd Wright home in Southwest Louisiana. We grew up with leaks constantly. I mean, there was always water. Mold. I mean, I grew up in mold. I really believe that it caused me to have brain fog, but I still pushed myself through it. But, I became a mold doctor here in Panama City after Hurricane Michael hit in 2018. And I didn't know anything really about mold. I mean, I never knew. I mean, I grew up in mold. I grew up in moldy places everywhere I lived, in Galveston and Tampa, wherever. But when after this hurricane hit and we found mold in our house and everybody was so sick, I was pushed into learning about mold treatment as a functional medicine doctor. And I called everybody, my friends in California and New Jersey, all around, and I found the top people and everything about mold. And I started treating myself and our family. You always want to learn how to do, that's what forces you to become an expert in something, is when you have something that affects your life. So it affected, everybody around me. So I became a mold expert and learned everything. And it's typical me. I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to learn everything and I'm going to push through and know. So I found the top people. I started out with Dr. Shoemaker's program, and then I found Dr. Neil Nathan, who wrote the book Toxic, and he's been my mentor. And I got with Dr. Jill Krista, who's a naturopath mold specialist. And there's a lot of doctors that are in the mold field that, I've met. I'm in all these collaborations. I started seeing people coming to me in functional medicine with these weird things like chronic fatigue, brain fog, weight gain, inflammation, autoimmune, hair loss, psoriasis, all kind of things, Hashimoto's thyroid, all this stuff. And I'm like, and thank God that God put me in the place to learn about this and learn about what mold does, what mycotoxins. It is a toxin from the molds that come into water damaged buildings, not the environmental molds. We're not talking about the outside. It's the ones in our buildings that are releasing these toxics that people don't even know. You can't see it. You don't always smell it. Maybe you might smell it. But when people come in that are having chronic sinus problems, brain fog, fatigue, gut problems, and I do the questionnaires, and now I can tell you, after doing this for from 18 to 25, 7, 8 years, I've become a mold expert. And I don't want to be a mold expert because it's a very challenging illness to treat, but I can get people transformed. I have done it, and it's so rewarding to see people change. But it's hard to tell people that their home's making them sick, because then they're all like, they have anxiety, they have brain fog, they can't think. But yes, I mean, it's one of the things, like you said, then I start mentoring people on getting better. But I see the transformations. They might not always like how expensive it can be to go through it. But like you said, what is your life? What is your health? How do you want to live? Do you want to live sick, or do you want to live better? Because I give people hope, because I have done it enough now that I feel confident that I can make the change and get them better if they're willing to invest in it.
Yeah. And mold is so relevant right now in like celebrities. And
Yes.
I mean, it's, I talk about mold every day, but there's so much manifestation and mentorship and motivation in the mold industry, because these people are in the mold hold, and it's in their brain, it's in their body. Like, it's your nervous system's haywire. Like, you can't do a lot on your own. It's really hard. And some people just want to talk about it or need a little push. But interesting how you bring up like the hurricanes, and, we say that the hurricanes kind of leave a scar on the earth because they just rip everything out, but they're also leaving behind tons of water damage, which will probably be hidden for many years. And that leads to mold and bacteria in your homes. And I've seen some of the craziest things after hurricanes, like water literally soaks upwards. It seeps. What's the word? Seeps. It soaks upwards. It wicks. So you could have a flood from a hurricane and not even realize that ceiling to floor, you could have mold under your floor, in your attic, and we've seen now with these stronger hurricanes, like these houses are going underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And people still go back to live in them.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they're so sick. But I've seen people, but mold, I know we're kind of getting off. We probably should do another podcast on all this.
Sure.
But I'm going to say, the one thing I do want to, because I know it's, but we're probably running out of time. But I am going to say that I see people with dementia, and mold is a huge driver of dementia. I see cancer. If your immune system, because cancer occurs because your immune system's attacked. Mold attacks your immune system, so you have autoimmune, you have cancer. There's the list goes, the autoimmune stuff we're talking about. There's all kind of autoimmune that people come in. When people come in with psoriasis or eczema or any kind of, I'm going to always say, okay, you've got a toxin in your body that's creating this inflammation. We got to find the root cause of it and reverse it more naturally and really treat you. And it's not always just, I'll use medications as needed as well. But it's a process, and that's what I help people do. And that's why my practice, people pay a membership because I want to spend more time with them. I do the research. I spend so much money myself on training and learning, going to conferences, and spend my weekends on these 5-hour, case presentations that we do. And and people don't see that. They only want to feel better. But what I'm saying is that if I'm investing my time in learning to help people, then I want them to invest into themselves. And they're like, it's not just about just giving me money. I have to run an overhead. Overheads are high. There's a lot. There's insurances. I was just looking today, how many things what it costs to run a business. No one tells you those kind of things. You learn as you go. And so it's not about greed. It's about helping people. It truly there to help people transform their lives, feel better, and have longevity and vitality.
Yeah, and obviously no medical advice here, but there's a lot of things better than blasting your body with chemotherapy radiation or like meds that are filled with chemicals.
Yeah.
Like there's other ways to heal. We've seen the autism being reversed. We've seen, or at least I've heard of like cancer sort of going away. If you get yourself into the right environment.
Yes.
We've seen these irreversible chronic conditions going away. So I think it's so important for people to understand functional medicine.
Yes.
And just lifestyle in general, and have a person in your life who can guide you. It doesn't have to be even a doctor. It could just be someone who's like, hey, you're stressed, you're not sleeping enough, you're on your phone 12 hours a night, all these things play in. But so many great conversations here that we could, I'm sure, have
we could
many
go
more.
on and on. I can talk forever.
And I like to leave people, though, with kind of like a mentorship mantra. And I'm hoping that you might have a little golden tidbit for people out there who are just, whether it's in mold or not, just in a hopeless place.
Well, I'm going to say that there is always a way out, and that people just need to know that there are people out there to help you make the transformation and guide you and be there for you to help with peace of mind. And I just hope that people will seek out people who have experience, not just who's like on the next social media platform, but people who have experience and knowledge and really spend a lot of time learning about this and have had transformations in patients already with evidence. So I just want everybody to know that there is hope.
Definitely it. And for me, I would say the best thing for people to do is to be themselves, which sounds super corny, but not only be yourself, but listen to yourself. Like if you don't know what you want to do in life or what you need to do, I think you're actually lying to yourself. I think you know exactly what you need to do and what you want to do. And there's a voice in your head that tells you that, it's go to med school or do whatever the real you, that childhood version of you wants. Like be yourself and listen to the good voice in your head, not the bad voice that tells you it's impossible, but really be yourself. And I think that's what happiness is. And I think happiness is the best motivator.
It is. And that's what we need. Everybody needs peace and joy in their life and love. Lots
Yeah.
of love.
Joy is a really, really big 3-letter word that I hope everyone gets to experience um, through being yourself. I think
Yeah.
that's the goal. Even if it's like the scariest thing ever, take that risk.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Myra Reed, please keep being yourself.
Yes.
The world appreciates it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure.